So in this second part of unlocking IBM SPSS statistics, we're going to be focusing on procedures for data manipulation and transformation. And we're going to be running certain routines and certain procedures that allow us to create new fields in order to get the most out of our analysis process. So here's our nicely formatted file that we've read in from Excel. And in this case, we want to do something to the file to help us get a little bit more out of our data analysis. And one of the first things that my eye is drawn towards is this column on the end, which is called DOB. It's a date field, as we can see. It's been read in as a date field. And indeed, if we move our cursor over the top of it, we can see that it stands for date of birth. One of the most obvious things one might do with that is to try to create the field age from date of birth. And we're going to show you exactly how you do that in this initial section. To do so, because we're in the realm of transforming the data, we can go to the transform menu, and indeed near the bottom here we have a procedure called date and time wizard. If we click on that, there's a number of different procedures within the date and time wizard that may be of benefit when it comes to working with date fields. The first option is, would you like to learn how dates and times are represented within SPSS statistics? Would you like to, in the second option, create a date or time field from a string containing a date or time field? Create a date or time variable from variables holding parts of dates or times. So if you've read in some data again from a third-party application, perhaps where days, months and years have come in as separate fields, you might want to create a date or time field from those different parts using that routine. Or alternatively, simply calculate the dates or times, or extract part of a date or time variable. So if, for example, we wanted just to pull out the year from this DOB variable, we could do so. And if you're working with time series data, you might want to assign periodicity to a data set so that you can prepare it for time series or forecasting analysis. In this case, we simply want to calculate with dates and times. So I'll click next at this stage. And it offers me the opportunity to add or subtract a duration from a date. For example, add a month to it, or add a year to a date. Or alternatively, calculate the number of time units between two dates. Example, calculate an age in years from a birth date and another date. That's exactly what we want to do. And all we need to do that is to specify what we're taking the field date of birth away from. Well, we're going to take it away from the current date and time. That's already available to us as a field that's hidden in the background. It's a system field, and it simply looks at the clock on the machine. Alternatively, we'd specify our own date or time field if we wanted to use a different one than today's date or time. And if I click next at that stage, it says, well, what are you going to call the resultant variable? Well, obviously we're going to call it age, and we'll give it a label, which is simply going to be age of employee. And if we hit finish at that point, it runs the routine. It goes and creates the field age for us, and there we can see it created very simply. So in this next section of the data manipulation and data transformation chapter, we're going to look at how we can tackle issues associated with continuous or interval level variables. That's variables that are made up of individual numbers rather than variables that are made up of categories such as manager and clerical here that we have. And that means we can turn our attention towards fields such as salary, beginning salary, showing the employee's beginning salary, what the current salary is, as well as newly created fields such as age. And really what we're trying to do here is we're trying to create age band or age group or salary band or salary group, sometimes referred to as binning. The reason why analysts do that is simply because, if we wanted to compare how, let's say, beginning salary varied by gender, or how current salary varied by minority classification, normally what we would be doing there is we'd be looking at the average or the median salary and what the differences are. If you want to look at percentages, it's very difficult to do that when you've got effectively a very, very large number of individual categories. So we simplify the field by creating categories from that, and in fact we don't overwrite the existing field, we create an additional field, so we get the best of both worlds. And to illustrate that process, I'm just going to run a chart here. I'm going to do a histogram of beginning salary, and so we can see the challenges associated with in making a good creating a decent field out of the back of this. And if I look at beginning salary here, I'm going to choose a histogram as my chart type. You can see it's a drag and drop interface that I'm using here. Click beginning salary, click OK. And it draws a picture of that distribution for me. Now, even though it's done a very nice job of it, it's still very difficult for me to tell, you know, where I would slice this distribution in order to get, let's say, roughly equal numbers of cases out the back of it. You know, it's not obvious. I'd need to think about decimal places. I might need to think about where missing values or missing information is going to fall within my resultant banded variable. And to make exactly those sorts of tasks much easier for you, SPSS Statistics got a fantastic routine under the transform menu called visual binning. If we click on the visual binning routine here, this procedure, we can actually select current salary, beginning salary, and age of employee as 3 fields all at once. And if we're dealing with millions of records here, we can actually limit it and say, we just want you to scan the top 1,000 or something like that. In this case, we don't need it. We're only dealing with about 470 records. The reason why we need to take that into consideration is because it actually does a scan of the data and it produces a little histogram for us, just as we saw earlier on, similar histogram beforehand. And again, we must ask ourselves, well, where are we going to slice this this distribution in order to get, you know, sensible groupings out of the back of it? How many groups do we want? We can see that the minimum value is 9,000. The maximum salary anyone was earning within this bank of employees was 79,980. And we can begin by saying, well, let's make some cut points. And when it comes to cut points, we can either decide we want equal intervals, i.e. cut points that increase in value of, let's say, £10,000 for each group. But that won't guarantee us that we get, of course, the same number of cases in each band. To get roughly the same number of cases, we can go to equal percentiles based on scanned cases and ask instead for 3 cut points, which gets us a width of 25% or quartiles. Hit apply. And for illustrative purposes here, you can see that it's actually found the slices for us. We can even move them up or down if we don't like where it's slicing it, and it will update that so we can interact with the chart. If we don't like the numbers it's using, we want to use something a bit more rounded, we can go for 12,500 and it will move that appropriately. I'll do the same thing for the 17,490 here and change that to 17,500. And because that's effectively going to create a variable, a new variable for us with the categories 1, 2, 3 and 4 in it, we wanted to make labels, just as we saw labels being added to the target data file using the copy data properties routine in the first section. So we can hit make labels and it creates some labels for us. We can edit the labels if we don't like the plus or greater than or less than signs, but I'm happy with that. And then we just simply give it a name. So I'll call it Sal Beg Band. So it's a Sal Beg Band. This is just the field name, not the field label, which is what's going to appear above charts. And I don't like the label it's using here, which is binned. I'm going to say grouped beginning salary. That's that field done. You can do exactly the same thing here for current salary. It switches to that, shows me the distribution for that. Go to make cut points again, ask for 3 equal cut points, hit apply, make labels. I'm not going to edit it this time, we'll just stick with the current labels and call it salary. Yeah, salary band. And I call it grouped current salary for the label. Finally, we can do it for the field age. And again, make cut points. Let's see where it's going to slice it. If I ask for 3 cut points, hit apply. It's going to slice it 27, 31, 45 and above. And I'll simply call this age band. And again, grouped age of employee. Hit make labels. It makes some labels for me, so that makes sense. If we click OK, it says it's going to create 3 fields. We click OK again. Go back to the data, and we can see the 3 new fields that have been created there. And of course, if we want to then analyze that, these are legitimate fields. We still got the original fields. We want to analyze that. I could go to the graphs menu again, go to chart builder. This time, I'll hit reset. and I'll use a new field. I'll go for a different chart type. I'll go for a stacked bar chart here, and I'll ask for grouped beginning salary, which I'll put into the x-axis, the horizontal axis, and I'll color that by whether or not the employees were part of a minority or minority classification. And here we have the results of that analysis. In the next section, we're going to focus on analysis and look at the different sorts of analytical routines we've got available to us, with a view to creating a final report and deploying that report out into a format for other people to read who don't have the IBM SPSS statistics. And we're also going to have a very quick look at automating the entire process.